We're all set.
Yep.
Good evening. Today is Monday, February 2nd, 2026. It's 7 p.m. I'd like to call the regular Board of Selectmen's meeting to order.
Kevin Bishop.
Paul Marino.
Paul Harrington.
Todd Archulashie
Glenn Albanesius.
William Hester.
Cheryl Heffernan McGlynn.
William Bozo.
and Selectman Lemire is excused as he is ill. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, agenda review.
Mr. Mayor, under the, I'm sorry.
Is this for him?
No,
Okay.
I have one, but go ahead.
The town manager requests us to add under item 11, executive session, line B, executive session, healthcare insurance contract.
Yeah,
So
health
moved.
insurance contract.
And Mr. Marino, Selectman Marino.
Under approval of minutes, I did find something that was in the January 5th minutes that we approved that is actually pertinent, so I would like to, I'll share that with you when we get to that section.
Anything else added to the agenda? All right, all in favor?
Need a second.
Second, I'll second.
Any discussion? Now all in favor? Unanimous? Item 4, approval of minutes of the regular meeting on June 20th. January the 20th?
Wishful thinking.
Rough night.
It's a rough week. That's
Move
what
that we
happens when it's
approve the minutes from
football.
January 20th.
I'll second.
Any corrections, additions? So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Unanimous?
Mr. Mayor, under the minutes of January 5th, and this would be under, stand by, under item 9, the Charter Revision Panel membership, number 3 in item 9 says panel members should not be related to any select person or current board or commission member. I actually went back and reviewed the video, and then I actually dropped the recording of the video into my favorite little AI tool, and it did a transcript for me of the motion, just to double check my memory, and the actual motion as it related to that item was simply not related to members of the Board of Selectmen. We did not do anything with other boards or commissions. So I move that we adjust the minutes to reflect that correction.
From January 5th. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? 501. Item 5, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes and may speak once. Does anyone wish to speak?
One question I have, could I, when Jim is done with his thing, we then ask questions on his public works?
You can ask the questions in the citizens' comments section after that, yes. Right. But it's not a question and answer period, so you can pose the question and we'll get the answer to you. Anyone else? Item 6. Starting the timer. Town manager's report.
I promise I will keep it brief. This report's obviously from January 20. What's wrong? Oh, my mic's off. This report's from January 20th through February 2nd. I first want to extend a huge thank you to Public Works, our sewer department, our water crews, their Herculean effort during last weekend's storm. The hours they put in were nothing short but extraordinary, working round the clock to clear the roads, restoring the services, and making sure the town bounced back fairly quickly. The community clearly noticed the outpouring of support on social media was overwhelming. The countless comments, the likes, and even the donations, and special thanks to Sarah Toomey for rallying the folks that they raised enough money to provide lunch to not only our crews that handled the snow, but they also did gift cards for our police department as well. Credit is also due to our police department and emergency management director. The police work tirelessly getting cars moved or ticketed to keep the roads clear. A little behind the scenes, they went door to door way before the parking ban went into effect with flyers. And right before the parking ban took effect and before they towed one car, they knocked on doors to try and get cars moved. The last thing we wanted to do was tow cars. We tried every effort to get those cars moved, but unfortunately we had to tow cars because we wanted to obviously get that snow removed as quickly as possible. And last shout out's gonna be to our emergency management director, right by my side the entire weekend, making sure we got the timely updates of what the weather is doing, what Eversource, any power losses. So great group effort. I think it goes a lot back to that Friday morning early meeting we had with all of our departments, getting everybody rowing in the same direction. And I think you saw that this storm was, although a big one, we handled it quite well. Moving on, I do have a handout because this is very important. To this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would have provided that in your packet to review over the weekend, but it just got done today because we had to file the grand list. But I wanted to give you a little glimpse of what the grand list is looking at. This has officially been filed with OPM. When you look at the real estate grand list, 2024 was 872, 554, 381 in 24. The 25 grand list is what we'll be using for the budget that begins on July 1st. 877, 628, 950, an increase of 0.6%. Motor vehicle grand list, 92,420,130, up to 96,003, 630. Up 3.9%, and personal property grand list, 88,341,435 last year. This year, 95,632,663, 663, up 8.3%. That makes the grand list up a almost $16 million increase, of 1.5%. Now comes the bad news. So now we got to look at the exemptions. When you look at the exemptions, and I'm going to recap it as quick as I can, and I can take questions if need be. Last year, we had exemptions totaling $30,130,474. This year, our exemptions has jumped to $39,979,946, an increase in exemptions of just under $10 million. Somebody may ask, and I'll point it out right now, what drove the increase? First one, we now have full exemptions for 100% disabled veterans. More commercial vehicles were added to the rolls, which led to corresponding exemptions. Some vehicles that were fully exempt in the past have been left off the list. They're back on this year and exempted accordingly. Personal property exemptions also rose. There's been significant increases in manufacturing personal property, which brought in more exemptions, which is great. People are making investments in town. But because of manufacturing rules, those pieces of property do get exempt. And now solar equipment is now 100% exempt as personal property, which impacts the total. So when you look at all in all, our exemptions rose just under $10 million. But there is a positive story to all this. When you go down to that final box, you can see that after exemptions, our grand list grew just over $6 million. So happy to report I've been here reporting on grand lists for 2 years. This is my third list I've been reporting on. The first 2 years I had to report losses. This year I'm reporting that it's an increase. I look at that as very positive, that it is going to be a slow climb. It doesn't happen overnight. But the positive that we can pull out of this is I think we're not going to lose it. Now we're going to start building it. So it's positive. What does $6.1 million really translate into revenue? Roughly about $180,000, $190,000 if the mill rate stayed the same. So it's good news. It's really good. But the real glaring is that we had to exempt almost an additional $10 million of our grand list that we didn't last year. So there's a lot of positive, 15 million bucks, almost 16. I lost almost 10 million of it due to exemptions. So that's the grand list. Budget development, we're cranking along. In the budget development, we're having some lively conversations. I know what this board, put out there 2 weeks ago. I'm putting that all into consideration. We're far from this being over. It's definitely more of a marathon than a sprint. but we'll get you guys something definitely by March 15th. Some happy news. I do want to thank Senator Blumenthal and Murphy. The town has been awarded $635,000 for fiscal year 2026 congressional direct spending earmark for the Southern Sewer Network Expansion Project. This funding will support the extension of sewer mains along the town's gateway on Raleigh Street to the Department of Public Works facility. Where a formal application is still required, the funds are essentially guaranteed. The email couldn't have said it any better. This isn't subject to Washington shutting down. This was part of those incremental funding bills that they did. This money has been funded by Washington. We're going to put the formal application in, and we are been granted $635 to officially add sewer leading right up into the Public Works facility, which will help the Sue Grossman Trail. So thank you, Senator Blumenthal, and thank you, Senator Murphy. $635. That's a great.
Thousand.
Sorry, $635. What is it, $635?
Yes.
Well, I would thank you for that. $635,000. Yes, yeah, that sounds a little bit better. $635,000 is a huge gift to the town, so we thank you. Pre-K edition, I know we talked about a little bit at the last meeting. I wanted to let you all know that we've engaged Downs Construction to assist with the Pre-K edition project. I have worked with Downs in the past. I know we allocated up to $40,000. Happy to report, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to report we're going to get everything that we need, plus the pretty pictures, a good cost estimate. We got it down for $13,000. They will be available for all of town meetings, and anytime we need and have questions, Downs will be here. Like I said, I've worked with them in the past. If you look into them, they build all the schools in the state of Connecticut, basically. They know what they're doing. They're the experts in the field. Happy to say that both the superintendent and I talked this weekend over this. I think I sent the email either Saturday or Sunday morning. So they're going to start the process, and we'll get that going. They're also going to commit that if we move forward with the project, if you remember that gentleman, Roger, that was part of the whole roof project, they will ensure that every dollar that we are qualified for, that we get. So we're going to bring the experts in to make sure we maximize our dollars as much. So more on that, because there's a lot of work to do to get that going. The dog case, I know we had a pretty spirited meeting last week or 2 weeks ago. I wanted to let you know that with the ACO of Harrington, and we brought in Happy Dog Rescue, a rescue that has been no part of this case whatsoever, to help us vet any potential adopter. They've agreed to even make home visits. They're going to put any adopter soup to nuts through it and make suggestions to the town, because it's ultimately the town that decides to adopt these dogs out or not. So that's been moving along quite nicely. And last but not least, I want to just mention Winstead Ambulance was in today to go over their budget with me. They heard that Selectman Marino did a ride-along in the police department, and they wanted me to mention that if any of you wanted to ride in a Winstead ambulance for a couple hours, they're open and willing to see what their operations are all about. With that, I'm going to open it up for questions.
Questions from the board?
Paul, on this grand list, you said some of the veterans. Is there any exemptions with the fire department too? Because wasn't that part of some of the exemptions, some of those guys?
We are going to work through that list. That'll be a minimum amount of money with the ordinance that we passed. So we got to get those numbers. Not there yet, and this isn't final because it's not in the budget yet, but we're still working on that number as
And
well.
roughly, I'm not sure if you can even say how many veterans actually.
I will email that number. It has been said, and there's so many numbers swirling in my head right now. I'll get that number for you. It's there. We know it. I just, off the top of my head, I don't even want to guess right now.
Other board members?
I just wanted to say thank you to our town manager for first off making this very clear document, and also it's wonderful to see. It's wonderful to see the grand list going in the right direction. I know that's been an issue that we've all fretted over for a couple of years now, and it's a good step in the right direction.
Thank you. Group effort, big team effort.
I just had a couple questions. I probably should have called you earlier so you could get these numbers, so you probably don't have them. Do we have a number of how many cars we did tow during the parking ban?
30 cars were towed during the parking ban. Roughly over 100 infractions were issued as well.
And this one will probably be more for Director Rollins, but how are we on salt? There were stories this week about salt.
I can jump in if you want.
Mr. Rollins, why don't you come up to the mic and just turn it on for us? We did state an emergency with Demis, and Mr. Rollins will give you the update on that.
So, yeah, salt has been a pretty difficult commodity to go by for a couple of reasons. One, it's been a, pretty harsh winter, and two, the storms down south diverted some of the barges to go take care of them. So it's been in short supply. We were down to our last 30 ton, and Steve Williams, our emergency management director, somehow worked through the
Demis.
EOC and Demis, and the next day I had almost 300 ton delivered, so we're at least not dead in the water. The latest thing I heard is they're unloading a barge in New Haven as we speak, and there's another barge coming next week. So that should alleviate the supply problem. The next hurdle is you can only get so many trucks in and out of that port, but right now we're holding our own. There's gonna be a couple of weeks before we get a big storm, it looks like. By then, things should equalize out, so I think, not just us, but I think most municipalities will probably be okay.
Excellent.
Yep.
It's actually the little storms that eat up the salt. It's not the big ones, it's
Yeah.
the little ones.
You're not kidding.
So this goes back, Mr. Mayor, when I said that the emergency management director and I were attached at the hip. I think it was very late on either a Thursday or Friday night where we declared the emergency. We were one of the first ones in to Demis to get our salt, and then Demis kicked back the following day, hey, don't ask us for salt, but we had secured ours.
Yeah,
So
somehow
we were,
snuck in just under the radar.
Steve and I were attached at the hip because he doesn't have the authority, but it worked out
Yeah.
beautifully. Let's just put it that way.
I gotta say, you guys did a really good job with this storm.
Yeah.
I mean, I traveled all over the state this past week, since the storm, and, being Hamden, Cheshire, whatever, up in Hartford area, any town I've gone through hasn't done as good a job as Winston did.
Really?
Yeah, very impressive.
I didn't get to leave town because we were busy, but it's
Yeah.
good to know, because
Yeah.
it was a lot of snow.
There was a lot of
There was a
snow.
lot of snow.
And those areas had less snow than we had, and we still did a better job.
Yeah, well, I'll pass it on to my guys,
Yeah,
because
appreciate it.
that was a tough one.
It was a tough one. I was out there, was working for Selectman Lemire up in Norfolk, and it was pretty bad at times. You couldn't see the front of the truck,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was
it
pretty
was a
bad.
tough one.
Happy to report when I call Public Works, it's no longer the zombie hotline. Our crew, that's how
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Rollins would
Oh, yeah.
answer. They were zombies for a
Yes.
few days because they were cranking some hours, but
Yeah.
I think they're charged up and they're back, and they were very appreciative of the town. I had your foreman's reaching out to me. We all worked. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
We talked.
I have to say it went well, and if we didn't get those cars off the road,
Yeah,
it could have been a very different story.
Yeah.
That was
everybody
huge.
worked.
So
I couldn't be prouder.
Yeah, I got no complaints. It was.
So while going, how's the sidewalk situations? I know Main Street's been taken care of, and I know there's some in my area that nobody's cleaning their sidewalks.
So we just finished our sidewalks, town responsible sidewalks
Sure.
today. So now we'll start looking at the ones that aren't our responsibility.
Yep.
I know we have an ordinance that says after a certain amount of time, we can, force them to do their sidewalks, or we do it for them. We don't feel right about enforcing that until we get ours done.
Yes.
So that's the next step, is to look at that.
So
Can you clarify that? Mr.
yeah,
Mayor?
quick, so we don't have an ordinance that says we're gonna look at potentially doing that ordinance. The ordinance right now, what it says is it's $100, not a day, it's a $100 fine for not cleaning the sidewalk. One of the things that the group's meeting internally about is, do we create an ordinance that after a certain period of time, we go in and quote-unquote clean and lean, or shovel and lean? Is areas we're looking at. We brought in the town attorney, we're looking at different, avenues of cleaning up sidewalks, especially in our school zones where kids are walking to school and stuff
Yes.
like that. We're not ready for prime time yet with it, but we're continuing to meet. Jeff's been meeting with me, the town attorney. We'll get there. It's just, right now, the only mechanism we have is $100. And does that get the sidewalk shoveled? No, because it's not $100 a day. It's $100.
So, do you happen to know how many miles of sidewalk that we actually have?
That we own or in the town?
Well, the whole town, because
Ooh.
this is just throwing this out. North Canaan, their fire district was actually their sewer plant. They do the sidewalks. They actually go out and they take care of it. That's part of their responsibility. And there's actually more miles of sidewalks than there is road
Isn't that good, both sides?
in North Canaan.
Oh, North Canaan, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we got sidewalks on both sides of a lot of the downtown
Yeah.
roads.
Yeah.
So, and state roads. So, yeah, I don't
Just curious.
I've used the number 40 just because it's about as much as we have for water mains,
Yep.
and thought it's about right, but, you know, could be 60. You know,
Would it
could
be 80
I
because
don't
you're
know.
doubling it? I don't, we,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, don't know the answer to
I
that.
geek out sometimes.
I just got a homework assignment.
Yeah, so Paul, I think we need to look into that if we gotta do an ordinance change. Cause I drove a bunch of the roads after the storm, I drove some today, and there's, you can see them, there's little groups of homeowners, multifamily, that not only didn't shovel them, they removed the snow from the driveways and put it on the sidewalk. And again, the way the state says it right now, we can fine them once $100, and honestly, for what it's gonna cost them to clean it, it's cheaper to just pay you the $100 and let it melt. Never clean it.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
we'll get you guys, we'll get you something, legally that hopefully, you guys wanna take on.
Priority of being the school zones, there's been a lot of comments from people on social media about trying to walk their kids to school and have to do it in the roads and, with the snowbanks, you can't, there's lots of blind spots and people backing out of driveways, so, we definitely have to deal with the school areas first.
Yeah, I experienced myself just even 3 or 4 days after the storm, having to walk in the street to get to Pearson, and a lot of kids, like, before and after school are walking out in the street, so.
And not only are there sidewalks that aren't shoveled at all, there's some that are shoveled, one shovel with through, which,
Better than nothing, though,
it's
Jim.
better than nothing, but not much better than nothing.
I forget what road I was driving down, but by the time the plows are done putting all the snow onto the sidewalks, it's an amazing task to try to shovel those. And they're like tunnels with 6 feet of snow on both sides by the
Yeah.
time you shovel it and try to go through it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we shoveled ours, and the plow came by and put it all back, and made us shovel it again.
So one of the things that, and we're working on a snow policy document that we want to put on the website. One of the things that can help, and people make this mistake all the time, they shovel their sidewalks out into the road.
Yes.
So then we come back, we put it back, and they shovel it into the road. If they just shovel it the other way,
Onto their property.
some of that would come back, but it would save them at least 50% of the work.
Agreed.
And simple little things like that that people just don't think of, And a little storm, it doesn't matter because it melts off pretty quick. But you get a big storm and it's a game changer. And people are, they're cursing at us when we come by. The other problem is the contractors. They push their snow out into the roads and they leave these giant windrows. And if we don't clean those up, they freeze into place. And I don't know if you've ever you have a snowplow, you hit one of those frozen things, it can send the truck right across the road. So we have to push those things off. We have to get them out of the road.
Yes.
And we're the most loved and the most hated at the same time.
I had a homeowner reach out to me and wanted to know why you guys, that are going through these neighborhoods, could not lift your plow when you go by the driveway. So that you don't push the stuff back in their driveway after they've just shoveled it. And I said, well, when you got a road with 200 houses on it, it's pretty hard for that plow to go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down.
Well, we know that the plow guy sits up the road and waits till we're going in the house, and then they come by and put it.
That's only in your neighborhood.
Information for the selectmen.
We know that's what
Don't let
happens.
that be public.
Hey, I'm one of the guy pushing the snow in the driveway, so.
I know it does seem that way, and I can remember being a kid, the same thing happened, and now I understand why, but it's.
Listen, you guys moved a massive amount of snow, did a great job. The team effort on Main Street and everywhere that we saw it the days after the storm was a Herculean job, so thank you.
Yes.
I will
Great job.
pass those compliments on to my guys, they'll be very happy to hear it, because they were between 35 and 47 hours of overtime in a week. That's a lot, and they were just exhausted, but I will.
And it's not a relaxing job to do. I mean, Bill will tell you, there's nothing relaxing about being in a plow truck.
No.
Especially when the roads aren't perfully smooth, Jim. That makes it even worse.
You're not
Oh,
kidding.
yeah.
Just remember that. Just keep that in
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
Because that is nothing more true than said.
All right, we'll be back to you in just a couple minutes. Any other questions for the town manager? Moving on to item number 7, correspondence. Does anyone have anything?
I have nothing.
Item number 8, boards and commissions. Bill? Kevin?
All right, so we have for reappointment to the Historic Commission, Stuart Pollins, term ending 12/2028. We have to the reappointment to the Ad Hoc Water Level Committee, David Pines, with a term ending on January of 2028. And to the Retirement Administrative Board, another reappointment, Jamie Legacy, term ending, that can't be right, 2010?
2030. You got an amended one,
Oh,
Mr.
okay,
Mayor.
sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. 2030, that's better. So those are the reappointments.
All right, we need a motion for Mr. Collins.
I'll make a motion for Stewart.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? We need a motion for Mr.
I'll
Pines.
make the motion for Dave Pines too.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. Discussion? All in favor?
And I might as well go for it, Mr. Legacy too for the retirement.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor? We gotta keep you honest there.
All right.
Next.
We have one resignation from Lauren Dombrowski from the Historic Commission, Party Democrat, so just one resignation.
We thank her for her service.
And there are no current appointments.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, because I have the pleasure of filling the alternate seat, the Economic Development Commission is looking for a member, amongst other boards. But there's a lot of openings, but EDC is doing some great things. If you want to get involved, come see me.
Anything else? Okay, moving on to item 9, unfinished business. Item A, Charter Revision Panel membership and continued discussion. Town Manager Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, and it wasn't because I didn't want to provide it this weekend, these applications came in this morning. We have 2 new applications, so if you have a bunch of papers, they kind of look like this. 2 new names were added. Sandra Stubar and Luisa Martinez are 2 additional people that put their name in. Just pointing that out. The applications are due to my office on February 13th at 11 a.m. This board is looking to take action on February 16th. It's a Tuesday because President's Day is that Monday, to form the Charter Commission. With that, I'll turn it back over to the board if there's any additional comments or requests.
Just a reminder, February 13th is a Friday. Town Hall closes at 12 noon.
And applications are due at 11.
So just as we're inviting people to put in applications, and we are getting some, which is nice to see, at the end of, and it may be that same January 3rd meeting, I don't remember if it was that meeting or the meeting after, but I think it was Mr. Platt who came up at the end of the meeting for citizen comments and made mention that town employees were not eligible to be on any board or commission. So I took a look at the charter today, because he said it was right in the charter, and I looked for every word in there that said employee, and didn't see anything that said it was an issue. And then dropped the charter into AI and let it search it for me, and it came back and said that there were some restrictions, but not specifically for boards and commissions. You guys can, I'll send you a copy around if you want to see what it came up with. And Paul, you were going to check to see if we had an ordinance that prevented town employees from being part of it?
I did look through the ordinance. I did not find one that would limit employees from joining, so then my next step would be state statute. I didn't get there, but I also reached out to our town attorney for any institutional knowledge that, 30 years in, he may have as well, and he may know state statutes a little bit better than I do, and looking through them all. So as it stands right now, I don't believe the ordinance prohibits it, and now it's a matter of the state statute prohibit it. I don't know the answers, so.
So if we had a resident town employee who wanted to be part of this commission, at this point, we could accept the application. What I just gave to all of you, the top part is just a summary of what it found in the charter, and then you can see I asked the question about halfway down, and it gives you the answer. So just take a look at that if you'd like, but there are no restrictions on that. So just want to make sure we open it up to as many people as possible.
I know that the charter does restrict us board members from working for the town for 2 years.
That's
after we
mentioned
get out.
actually in here.
So that may be where he got a little
Right.
confused. Anything else?
Well, I just wanted to, I think a lot of people who've reached out to me to talk about like the Charter Revision Committee, like the big question is like, how much is the commitment, how long? I just wanted to take a look at this timeline that's submitted here, like an estimate of what it is. So it's a commitment basically between mid-February and mid-June. So it's not an ongoing forever sort of commitment. So I think I think that it just needs to be clarified that, you know, that is a commitment, and the committee meets when everybody's available, right? It's no specific time. They decide when to meet, right?
Correct.
Right.
But I think
so-
there was, Candy put together some proposals as
Yeah.
part of our materials, looking at dates and stuff, and just talking about, I think it's a 14-week period, which she's put together as part of her, how
this-
to do it.
Yeah, this document's really helpful, and then when we invite further people in the next few weeks and call on people to join the committee, I think it's important to lay out, that it's not a forever commitment, it's a short-term thing. I think that's a question that
It would
can
be
go
nice
around.
to have a diverse
Yeah.
group as well.
Yep.
Anything else?
I'll have applications sent to you by close of business, but that's 12, and maybe a little bit after close of business on Friday, so you have the weekend to review them. And then your action would be on that Tuesday, the 16th?
Everyone's getting that is next Friday, not this Friday.
Next Friday.
Friday the 13th.
Friday, the day
As
before
it were.
Valentine's Day.
Wouldn't want to be interrupting a game this coming Sunday or anything.
No, no.
With some paperwork. Moving on to item 10, new business. Item A, roadway infrastructure strategic planning. Town Manager Harrington, Public Works Director Rowland, and Dan, I'm gonna massacre your last name.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So obviously tonight, we do have Director of Public Works, Mr. Rollins, and then our Yukon intern, Dan Kogstad. They're gonna run you through a 20-minute or so presentation. Kevin had the joy of, when he first came on the board, he wanted to know about roads, so we put him through like the hour presentation, but
We streamlined it.
we streamlined it a little bit. I do have a select person that makes me on my 20-minute presentation, so I'm trying to stick to that as hard as I can.
They shut off.
Seamless?
Love it when a plan works. They have to turn off eventually. I'm afraid to hit buttons. Oh, God. See, Todd?
Seamless, huh?
Had to hit
That's
that
good. The
button.
guy had to hit the button.
I
Had
cursed
to
it.
hit the button.
You have to get different brands TVs, so you have different remotes.
Right.
Come on, he got that real quick.
These guys were in here for an hour before the meeting. Then I had to come down and fix it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, everyone. It's nice to meet you all if I haven't yet, and it's good to see you all again if I have. So Jim and I are gonna show you kind of a pretty concise walkthrough of some of the strategic planning that goes into which roads we should pave, and also give you an introduction to the new software that we've been using, which has streamlined the process and made it a lot more efficient. So just to cover some of the basic infrastructures related to roadway, we obviously have pavement surfaces and base, but there's also drainage, sidewalks, curbing, guide rails, the signs and markings, bridges and culverts, and that doesn't even mention things like water, gas, and sewer underneath the road. And one thing to note is that the lion's share of the cost for a lot of paving roads tends to lie in drainage, bridges, and culverts, and then also if you hit a point where you have to get to the base, that also starts to ramp up the cost. And Jim and I put together a loose rubric, just as far as it goes for the presentation, where the goal of this plan is to limit the liability to the town, and we want to utilize the taxpayer funds as much as possible, and oftentimes that relates in dollar per mile figures. Also, as Jim kind of preluded when we were talking about the paving, or the snow plowing, a reduction of winter maintenance costs is also extremely important when it comes to making a strategic planning rubric. This also has to do with the synergies with utility work, like I mentioned, water, sewer, gas, drainage, etc. And one of the things that is always in the back of our mind is that the available funding plus the bandwidth to accomplish whatever project we set forth can always be a give and take of a constraint when it comes to paving. And by no means is this an exhaustive list. I'm sure all of you can come up with an idea of a different metric or a different figure that could add another variable to the process. So back in 2016, and this was what Paul had given me originally as a document to base this off of, we were using a software called RoadSoft, and while it does do a pretty good job at actually getting a pacer rating and addressing the surface conditions, it really is much, much more costly than what we use now. It's extremely time consuming, and the frequency that you can use it is much lower than something with the new software, which we can discuss with you now, which is called Vialytics. This is an AI software that also uses a lot of human contribution, and we're gonna switch on over to Vialytics so we can give you guys a brief overview of it.
We lost you, Dan. It's coming back.
You lost
It's
this one.
trying. Oop.
That one's still on.
You know, you lost this
No,
one.
he lost.
We had,
Oh, boy.
we had to work this connection earlier.
I may just have to adjust the display settings.
Go to duplicate mode. There we go. When we tested this earlier at like 5 o'clock, it was seamless.
Technology.
Dress rehearsal.
We're all on the edge of our seats.
I know it's everybody's favorite topic of discussion is paving the road, so.
Oh, it's a pretty good topic. We actually
Yeah,
like it.
Did you have the laptop in the car driving over?
No, I stayed here.
Oh.
Try to make sure it was seamless. But software doesn't like to be that way sometimes.
There you go. Just, yeah, and go keep changing. You're good.
There we go.
You're perfect then.
All right, thank you for the intermission. So, just to give a brief overview, one of the things that Vialytics does very well is that in real time, you can attach a phone mount to one of the public works vehicles, and roughly 10 feet, I believe, in increments of 10 feet, it will take photos of not just the surface, but also the curbing, signs, any other assets related to the road. And you can see here in the bar graph, Jim and I have found that one of the processes that Vialytics will continue to refine as we keep using it is that it will get more accurate as we go. But one thing you can notice is that it tries to follow a typical bell curve. So some of the lowest rated roads may get slight improvements on the first go around, and some of the highest rated roads may appear as if they're a little bit closer to the middle.
So I'm gonna jump in, just clarify for those of you that, we're gonna use some terminology that some of you aren't familiar with. Pacer rating is, there's two different ways of rating a road, and it's pavement condition index and Pacer ratings. We go with Pacer because it's a scale of 1 to 10. So you can see that bar graph, and there's a 1 to 10. The one's in red, and you know, the greener you get, the closer you get to 10. So we want to try to get all our roads, you know, up to 6s or better if we could. 5s really aren't too bad, but so Pacer ratings are your 1 to 10 scale of how good your road surface is. It doesn't talk about the drainage underneath. It doesn't talk about the curbing, the sidewalks, the signs, the guide rails. It's just the driving surface. So it's a little bit of a, it's a good tool, but it only paints part of the picture. And where Daniel was going with this is RoadSoft, the software that we used before, it didn't do this road rating through the AI. It did it through, you know, people. We hired engineers to drive around the roads, assess all the types of different cracking in the road, and put them in a percentage, and, you know, they gave the roads a rating. The difference between the Pacer ratings from RoadSoft and the Pacer ratings from Vialytics is really more, Vialytics averages out. If you have a road with 500, you know, photos that get assessed, it takes the average of all of those. Whereas RoadSoft and the engineers had a little different way of rating it, and they would take what's the area of distress, and you'd go to the, not the worst distress, but the most problematic distress. And so the Pacer ratings for RoadSoft tend to be a little bit lower than Vialytics. So we've got to do a little double checking every time we go into this. And I'll show you kind of a really good example of where this worked super well. So if we scroll in to Upland Road, All right, let's stop right there for a second. So cool. And you can see on the left-hand side as it curved up off of Main Street, there's a bunch of kind of green dots, blue dots. You know, they look nice and neat. You get up around the corner and they all start turning pink, red, and that's where there's a transition. So let me just drive and get to a good point to start. We're gonna start right there. And then we're gonna click right here. It's gonna go full screen. So that's a Pazer 4. That's a pretty good example of a 4.
Well, I think that's being rather generous at a 4.
A 3 maybe. It's certainly not a 1 or a 2.
Did you say, but didn't you say before a 5 is not bad?
No, 6 was not bad.
Yeah.
Oh, 6 is
Six.
not bad?
Can we see a 6, please? I just,
Again, we'll find one.
okay, thanks.
So this is a Pazer 4, and we can take, you know, a leap of 10 feet. So every one of those dots is a new photograph. And it's probably gonna be a little slow, it takes a little bit.
So while you're on this, I want to just note, you see the color of the truck. So this software rides along, so we're no longer hiring engineers. This is, if you remember back a few months ago when I reported that Phil was racing around before the leaves covered the street. So yet another point that we're not bringing in engineers. This is done by our crew with the software in the vehicle. So you can see, there's our vehicle right there.
So
Sorry, Jim.
it used to cost us, you know, $20,000 or so to do a pavement assessment with the engineers. The entire package of software here, and we would only do that once every 3 years, or longer. This software costs $15,000, but we can go out unlimited times. Anytime we have, and we hold this archive, so we have essentially our own Google Street View of our own roads, the sides of the roads. This way, when people call and complain, hey, you know, you knocked down my stone wall, we can go back, you know, look at these photos and say, well, that thing was knocked down, you know, in the fall, so, you know, we sure didn't do it with a plow, or, oh, yes, we did, so let's get out there and fix it. So it's just a really great record, which saves us a lot of time running around. It provides an archive, it tracks everything. It's also got a work order unit to it, and we'll get to all of that. So we can just click, you know, every 10 feet or so. And one of these, just as, I think it's the next one. Now you start seeing the brand new pavement, and you look up in the corner, and this is a Pazer 9. That's the section of road that we redid. We had to redo this road because of a failed retaining wall that was, you know, 100 and something years old. It failed, so we took the old wall out. We built an earthen embankment, which was far less expensive than fixing a retaining wall. We had to do a driveway apron there because we.
Maybe easier if I click here to skip ahead a little.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, but you get the idea. So we turned a corner, there you go, and now you got the whole new road, the curbing, the drainage, all of that stuff, that was all done. We were able to do this because we did the retaining wall, but we stopped where we stopped because there's a water main in there from 1890 that we want to fix before we put the road on top. So as part of the rubric that he was talking about, there's water, sewer, gas, all kinds of utilities under the road. And we have a 5-year look ahead with all the utilities. They talk to us 5 years ahead of their projects, we talk to them 5 years ahead of ours, and we all try to work together to avoid opening a road up more than you have to, which is all great, but it really complicates things because we might not have road money when Eversource has a gas project or the water and sewer department has a gas or a water project. So it really makes things a lot more complicated, but it does make it a lot more cost effective in the end. So those are some of the complexities that we try to navigate while we're doing our road planning and developing, you know, that's part of our rubric is which roads get done? Well, let's try to get ahead of the water department, the sewer department, the gas company, private development, you know, whatever. If we know that there's a shopping center, you try to come in and help them out. Or, Barkhamsted, great example, we knew they were gonna be putting sewer up Old New Hartford Road. We didn't wanna do any work on that road until the sewer got in. Now they're doing the water. Once that's done, now I've put it into my budget, we'll see that spreadsheet later on. So there's a lot of thought goes into it, and it's time consuming and things change. We'll have a project Hubbard Street was a great example. We planned on doing it. The gas company said, no, we're not gonna do anything for 5 years. We designed it, engineered it, they called back and said, oh, no, actually, we are gonna do it. So we held off, and then they said, oh, we're not gonna do it. So then we pulled the trigger and did it. So there's a lot of back and forth, and I don't blame them because we do the same thing. You expect the budget to pass, and it doesn't. Something gets chopped. Could be that project. You might not get your funding from the state revolving fund. You might not get, there's a million reasons. And but we all try to work together, and it's a relatively new thing. We've been doing it for, how long? That's been a mandate for 5 years? Maybe longer, 7 years. And we're
5 to 7.
We're all starting to get pretty good at it.
I have a little question. Does Eversource actually cooperate with you and give you information? Because
yeah.
it seemed like, Main Street gets done and then it gets dug up and then it gets done, so this is something that seems to happen, like they're not telling us.
No, they are. We knew that project was coming.
So why
And-
did we go to the trouble of paving the Main Street when we knew they were gonna dig it all up?
Did the state not pay Main Street?
Is it
We
state?
stayed
Or is it
Yeah, that's a state
Okay,
road.
that's for my.
But they work with the state as well.
Okay.
And we actually just had a meeting with the state and Eversource just recently. And actually, was the state there? I don't know if the state was there, but we were talking about the state road and the paving. And as soon as spring hits, they want to finish the same project that they're doing now, all the way down essentially to Hinsdale Avenue. So they are asking, do you want to do the paving right away on this phase or do it together? I like to wait as long as possible, as long as you don't have to go through another winter. You get a little bit more settling done. It all lasts a little bit longer. I told them it needed some patching, and they're like, okay, we'll get in there and patch it. I also told them we had some sidewalk work that we're coming up to do on Main Street. So I'd rather they not do that until we're done. And they're like, oh, that works for us. So we do coordinate where we can. Sometimes signals get crossed, but it works out. It works out pretty well.
Good.
In the event that they have to get ahead of us and we're not ready, we have I don't know if it's an ordinance or if it's just a policy, where any utility work that gets done, any any main work going down, the length of the road, any utility company that does work like that is required to mill and pave 2 inches after they're done. So they know that's part of the permit process. And then we will take that fee in lieu of, and we'll just put it in a pile, and we've got an account that's fee in lieu of money allocated for specific roads that were paved. Now, Rockwell, Superior, Ridge, and Spring Streets are all in that list. We've got that fee in lieu of money for their 2 inches. We've got to go fix drainage and blah, 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 and other things that we're doing. So they wanted to get ahead of us. Okay, you do that, give us the money, we do our stuff, then we pave it. So it does work.
Good.
But it's, logistically, it's tough, but it does work. So this is a sense of what, let's see if we can find we gotta hit done to get out of that.
So while you're looking, Jim,
You
I
wanna
have
find
a-
a Pazer, one of these red ones might be, that's a 2. Let's see what that looks like. So sometimes that one's a 2. That's got a lot of alligator cracks, which is indicating that the pavement is completely dried up. All the oils have evaporated out of it, and a lot of times you'll have that with a base failure too. Doesn't look as bad. Part of it could be the shadows. But like I said, the AI isn't an engineer in a car. So it tends to find the middle a little more often than it should.
How do you prioritize which roads to do first?
So,
I'm guessing it's more than just the Pazer score, like all the ones don't get done first.
so that's an excellent segue into the decision-making process. And I'm gonna go back to 2016, when we adopted our road plan. Our town had always done the worst roads first. You know, my road is 0, it's awful, you can't drive it, you can't plow it. Yeah, you're right, we'll fix it. But it costs so much money to do those roads, we never had money to do just the routine maintenance, the preventive maintenance. So all the other roads deteriorated. So we're fixing one, you know, really bad road, all our money's gone, and we're losing miles and miles and miles and miles of other roads. So what became painfully clear when we went through the process of the 2016 road report was that you've got to maintain the roads that are decent first. That will slow the deterioration down, that you can save enough money or not spend that money. Then you can start doing the worst roads up. So it was like 2018, we, you know, finally got some money, we put it into, you know, preventive maintenance. The public lost their mind. How can you chip seal a road that's in good shape when my road is falling apart? Valid question. So we went through it, and you know, I credit the Board of Selectmen. You were on it. That was a tough call. People were not happy, but they had the courage to say, yes, this is the right thing to do. And we went several years just doing that. People weren't happy, but now we've got those roads fairly well maintained. We're staying on top of it with crack seal, chip seal, all that stuff. Now we're moving on to those roads that are, you know, worst first, or do you go to the ones that you know you have a water main that you want to do, or the gas company's coming in? So those other roads, there's more of an art to that than a science. And that's partly based on what the selectmen think are the important roads. My personal opinion, I think the first bond we did was really well crafted to get some skin in the game for everybody. We hit all parts of town, we hit rural roads, city roads, you know, all areas. It was pretty good. We got some drainage, we got some lake stuff, got some bridges, so it really covered a lot. I think it's a better plan than I would have put out if I was left to my own devices. I would have gone probably out in the country and hit some of the long roads that don't cost as much because there's not as much drainage work. That way you could get a lot of the roads done. It would increase our average rating. We get more miles done per dollar. Some of the far out roads are, for us, they're really rough. You know, Blue Street, it's 20-minute drive to get out there. You know, snowplow, it's, you know, an hour and 15. So you get out there and it's beating you up. It takes a lot more material, takes a lot more abuse on the trucks. I'd like to get that stuff down to lower our overall winter maintenance costs and work our way back. But that might not sell to the people downtown. So that's the art. You know, you've got, what was it, 300 and something dollars a square foot for Case Avenue?
Yeah.
And
And it can go up to 450 for
You
some
know.
of them, depending on the severity.
you know, so you gotta really balance it. And
I mean, I wonder sometimes if you have stuff where you know you don't have to do drainage work. Because the drainage work in the engineering we always hear about slows this to a snail's pace
and raises the cost.
and costs money. So if you've got roads that, dare I say, are simple mill and paves,
Mhm.
that we can get several miles done. I mean, hopefully it's not out in the woods, the furthest part where no one is gonna see it other than the 3 people that live there. I hear you.
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
But I mean, what we need now really is some progress where people are saying, wow, we
I'm
are,
gonna cut to that.
That's what I was saying.
Am I segueing you again?
You did it again, it was pretty, so, speaking of a list, we happen to have one.
So, while he's pulling up the list, it was a challenge to put that list together.
this list or the old list?
This
This
list
list.
of roads that don't require a ton of drainage work, because most of them require a ton of drainage work.
Of course.
So, it came up
Go right to
to,
that.
about 1.25, 1.27 miles. And
And these are with minimal drainage needed.
yes,
So did you say this is 1.27 miles, everything that's on this
Yep.
list? So of the 80 some odd miles we have, only 1.2 can be milled and paved without,
With minimal drainage? Wow. Yeah, that's, now you're beginning to understand that.
Remember, we're in a valley. Everything is hill. It's like there's no ledge around here either, right?
Yeah, the ledge, it's, what it is, the best way to explain it is, there's always a point in time where infrastructure reaches a certain age limit.
sure,
And in the 50s, when a lot of work was done, they buried a lot of corrugated metal pipe. It's worn out and rusted. That's our biggest nemesis. So the bottoms of those pipes are rotted out. And so you gotta replace them. And if you don't, you get sinkholes, and it was just a complete waste of paving. So it's not that it was neglected, it's not that it wasn't put in well, it just reached the end of its useful life. And they did so much work in, the 50s, and now all of a sudden, its time is up. It's time to do it. So it's just the way it is. It's not pretty.
can
There's-
we, on the stuff, so this is 1.2 miles of what we call the easy projects. It's sad it's only 1.2 miles. I wish it was 50 miles of
Yeah,
easy
so
projects.
Price, right?
Right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I.
So, okay, excluding this, do we then look at, do you take into account, obviously the Paisley rating, but amount of traffic? Like, do we do the high traffic areas first? Do they get priority if they're carrying many more cars a day than other roads?
Again, that's part of the rubric that it's taken into consideration. You might weigh that more important than you do, The list isn't any one person's responsibility. There's too many people that have a sway in whether a road gets done or not. You guys have to believe in it enough to advocate for the budget. I have to give you something that I think is worth doing. The public has to, buy into it. It's gotta be affordable. So there's a lot of variables, which is why the last bond was so diverse and so spread out. But that also means it has to be pretty big.
I wanted to add to Mr. Rollins' comment, and we've talked extensively about roads. We also want to be responsible with the taxpayer money. And one of our fears is if we go after a road where, just mill and pave it, and we feel that we may crack the pipe underneath, we've now started a project that don't have the funding to fix that pipe underneath. Or we pave the road, a year later, that pipe breaks. What does the resident then say? You just spent $381,000 that you're literally tearing up to fix a pipe. Why didn't you fix the pipe before you pave the road? So what we try and do is be very responsible with every dollar that's given to us, because we don't want to waste it. And the biggest waste would be us to go in, pave a road, and then either A, crack the pipe during the milling process, or B, the pipe breaks a year and a half later and we're ripping up that $400,000 expenditure.
And that's another reason why you really work with the utilities. The clay sewer pipes were first put in the 50s. They get brittle over time. They're amazing at what they do, but when they get brittle, that's a problem. Water mains, we've got water mains in the ground that are from 1890. These things are really old, and they get brittle as well. So you can pave over them, they're carrying water, but the vibration will often crack a pipe of that age. So you go and you pave it. Rockwell Street was a classic example. Eversource came in, they fixed an area, they milled and paved it because that was their responsibility. And a couple days later, we dug it up and fixed the leak that was caused by the vibratory rollers. So there's a lot going on. And
Yeah.
to pick the roads, I mean, I could go through and pick the roads that I would like to see for my selfish reasons, like what's gonna help make the winter maintenance more cost-effective for the town. I could certainly do that. but there's only, I can put together a million scenarios, and this is one. I just said, what if I got $1 million? Where could I put that and make progress without having to put most of it into drainage work? Because I know people really want smooth roads. That's what this is about. So these were the roads I came up with. Most of you probably don't even know where Cordano or Cornelio are.
I know where Cordano is. So some of this drainage, Jim, I know the galvanized has to come out, but some of this drainage line, depending on the shape, can actually be relined, like the sewer line in the clay.
Oh, the sewer lines for sure.
The sewer for sure, but even some of these drain lines, they do reline drain lines.
It's not really cost effective unless they're deep. And most of these aren't. The ones that they are, Oakdale, Glendale, those for sure. But most of the shallow ones or big ones, once you get over a 12-inch, the lining gets pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And it can be done, but there's a lot of, we look at that, by the time you grout back around them, you don't always get a good grout. It's a challenge, and it's expensive, it's time consuming, but it can be done.
I'll say, I've always wanted to see that get done, and now both public works directors, this town and my last town, have told me that, Paul, you're gonna spend more money in the long run, because it literally, machine goes in and reline.
We
It's
did
the
one on Main
coolest,
Street
like,
a few years ago.
yeah, it's the coolest process that I looked at, but, yeah.
I helped spend $4 million relining the whole town at Norfolk, so.
Yeah.
I've seen it do some pretty amazing stuff. I've actually seen it push the clay pipe back into place. But the thing of it is, it'll take the
Amazing
shape
process.
of it. So if the pipe is crushed, it's gonna take the shape of that pipe.
Yep.
So also limiting the
We've
flow.
got that under South Main. Sanitary sewer makes perfect sense.
Yes.
That's it's much more applicable to that than storm drains.
That's why it's all plastic for storm drains now instead of the.
That's part of it.
So Jim, in the couple of years I've been on this board, the thing I get yelled at about the most is roads, obviously.
Me too.
Yes, I'm sure you do.
No, actually, sidewalks might be more than roads.
Yeah, for me, it's roads.
Okay.
And I sit here and I look at our situation, and I've heard you say that this was ignored for 30 years, and it's obvious that that's what happened, right? And to me, it feels like it's an impossible thing to fix. Like, without allocating $80 million to it, which we don't know where that's coming from, but without allocating a massive amount of money quickly, it doesn't feel like we can get ahead of it. So my question to you is, do we need to develop like a 10-year plan, Jim, that we know what can we accomplish in 10 years and how much money is it, and can we get it into the budget? I don't know the answer to those questions, but I feel like every year we sit here and you go through the list, and I know you're doing what you can with a very limited amount of money. I mean, I think, what do we have, $1 million in the road budget or something, where we're talking about $1 million this year?
400, but that's.
Usually
Yeah.
about 485.
Yeah.
480, and that's doing a lot of other things than
That's
just
other
paving
stuff.
roads,
Right.
trees and everything.
But we've got to figure out a way to give us hope, right? The public needs hope, we need hope on the board that says, okay, in 10 years, we'll be a third of the way through this problem, or whatever. I'd love to see something like that, where we really kind of give the public and all of us a feel like, yeah, we can get there. Because right now, I don't feel like we can get there. It seems, and it's no reflection on you
No,
or your department.
I get it. Let me jump
It's
in.
overwhelming,
Yeah.
really.
You're not kidding.
Yeah.
Let me jump in and say, yeah, it is overwhelming. It's a lot less overwhelming than it was 10 years ago. There had been 30 years of mostly neglect in preventive maintenance. The crack seal, chip seal stuff went away for various reasons. So that allowed all the roads to deteriorate to the point they're at. The drainage, that's just a function of time. Like, it would have had to have been done even if our roads were good. The ideal thing would have been to pick up on those before they got as bad as they are. But with that said, how do you get there? First, you need to define where you want to get. Do you want to get so that you don't have anything less than a Pazer 5? Anything less than a Pazer 8? First you have to define that. And then we go after it. You make a plan. Do we again, I keep thinking, and it's selfish because I would like to see the Winchester roads that don't require really expensive drainage down the length of the road. They just have crossovers that discharge into the nearest brook. You know, you pop in a, you know, catch basin or some kind of a erosion, you know, protection, and get those roads in better shape. But I just don't know that the town would buy into that. I mean, yeah, it's gonna save them money. So there's, the big expensive roads are the ones downtown. I mean,
Yeah.
Case Avenue, Elm Street. Elm Street is probably the most complicated road in, I don't think there's gonna be anything, pull that, you got it up. No, that's
The one
not it.
behind the town hall.
Center Street, that's virtually the same as what Case Avenue was. Let's pull up
You want me to
Case
pull up
Avenue.
that-
So
Yeah.
what you guys are
graph?
pulling up,
Yeah.
is there, electricity underground in town too, in some
There-
spots?
there is some.
How about phone too? Is there phone
There's some,
vaults?
it's not a lot. So
Is
this,
that a current project? When we listed Case Ave?
Center Street up there, very number one. So Center Street, that's the street right behind Town Hall. It's virtually the same exact job that we did on Case Avenue. And that came out to $435 a square yard. So then take a road like, pick a road up, let's go back to the other spreadsheet with.
Are those, before you leave that,
Yep.
is that the prices to do the jobs that you have on those roads
That
with
green-
drainage?
That green column, the green column, dollars per square yard. That's the dollar.
That's
We're
for,
gonna-
that's
we're-
for everything listed, right?
Let's,
Strip,
yeah, let's
drainage,
come
curbing,
back to
sidewalks.
that, because those numbers will mean more if we go to the other spreadsheet first.
Yeah, but doesn't also Center Street, there's other streets that drain into Center Street, right? Come that direction.
Yeah.
Because everything
let's-
wants to end up over there. So you got
The one-
everything
the one
that
that
has to come that
shows-
way, so it could even be undersized
Yes.
pipes. I've
So-
heard some nightmares about the drainage, so.
You can't see it up there. Okay, the green will work. So, these roads here, Mountain Road, Chapel Road, this section of East Wakefield, Price Road, Holmes Drive, Sucker Brook Road, Dayton Road, Wani Road, Howland Beach, and West Wakefield. These are all roads that we just finished. These roads in pink, Marshall Street, Case Avenue, Elm Street, and Hubbard Street, are roads that we did the prior year. So we went, I just did a quick description of the work that we did, and that's in this column here. So if, yeah, keep scrolling that way. So let's just take Case Avenue, for example, since that's the one right outside. We did a full reconstruction with drainage and sidewalks. That cost us $435 a square yard. So let's just look at Marshall Street. Marshall Street is a much longer road. It's over a mile. And we did the drainage. Public Works did the drainage. We didn't sub that out. When we did a reclaim and pave, and that was
35.
$35 a square yard. So you throw sidewalks, drainage, curbing, all that stuff, signs, line painting, into a downtown road where you have traffic management, So-
Water, sewer, gas.
water, sewer, gas. And that one had underground electric and communications in some areas. So you gotta be, so we took all these prices. So let's take this one here, Sucker Brook Road. We did just a 3-inch mill and pave, and, tack seal, we put joint seal on afterwards, we had flaggers. That was the soup to nuts price of $27 a square yard. So when we go to the other roads that we had on the other spreadsheet, I said, okay, yeah, this project, we looked at Center Street. I said, it's exactly the same as Case Avenue. So we took the cost per square yard price, and that's how we figured out what to budget for that, what to expect to pay. Wani Road, pretty similar. That's 30, just under 35. Marshall Street, that was 34. So those two projects are very similar, 2 years apart. So we're starting to get a pattern of how much it really costs you to do these types of jobs in real time in this modern age in this town. So that's where the numbers came from that we used on that next slide. So let's go back to that other slide.
The long one.
Yep. So Center Street, that's the same amount as Case Avenue was. So that, 0.15 miles is gonna cost you $833,000.
So roughly, just really quick, and I don't want to drag this out too much, but what he just had up there with that work was $4.7 million. Just those few streets he had up before.
And this may be a good time actually to directly respond to Selectman Marino as far as hope for the town. You kind of get put in this tough position where, as far as the budget is concerned, $1 million, clearly, when you get to some of the more labor-intensive roads, you wouldn't even be able to cover one of them. Just as an example, Hinsdale Ave. That road alone, even at a Pacer rating of 5, would be over $3 million. Obviously, 1 million won't cut it. One of the things that Jim and I did do additionally is we sat down and we came up with this list where in total, it would be $23.5 million, which could be phased out over a 5-year, one-year bond package over 5 years. If the inflation rate ends up being higher than the interest rate for the bond that has to be paid back, you really are arbitraging the rate and saving money for the town and creating an opportunity to start catching up on some of the very low quality roads. And one of the things that Jim and I really wanted to show you, which I think might be helpful to kind of illustrate this, the pavement deterioration curve that you see here, this is what Jim and I keep mentioning when we say worst roads first. That was the old methodology for repairing the Winstead roads. But if you look all the way at the bottom of that graph in the red area, after about 20 to 25 years, you're spending upwards of $50 to $100 per square yard, and that's just for the pavement. That doesn't include drainage, sidewalks, signage, anything like that. The reason we keep saying that maintenance of good roads is a priority, you spend $1 to $2 per square yard on those roads, which saves you exponential cost in the long run. So the longer that we keep up this pattern of maintaining the good roads, spending $1 to $2, over time you're able to catch up with all of the poor rated roads, and keeping those 8s at an 8 or a 9 actually tends to be the highest utility for the taxpayer dollar. However, like you said, it does take some time. You may have to go to bond or sacrifice large parts of the budget to get there. Ultimately though, it is possible. It's not a quick fix that happens in 1 to 3 years, but it is a viable strategy moving forward to accomplish that goal.
Can you go back to the spreadsheet for a second? Because a lot of times when we talk about roads, when you say we're gonna do this road, I envision we're doing the whole road, but we're only doing 100 feet of it or something like that. What's interesting to me is you have East and West Wakefield on there at 7.3 million round numbers. Is that the entire thing with drainage?
Approximately 2.5 million for East and West Wakefield would be drainage.
But that's
alone.
all 7.5 miles?
So
Together,
this one
5.8.
here says 5.8 of those
5.8,
miles.
that's not all of it.
All right,
And
so
that's,
got it. So that's still leaving 2 miles of it untouched.
yeah.
Just the one by your house.
Yeah, of course.
And again, do you have to do, we've made some progress on West Wakefield. There's a couple of places we put some drainage and we've done some paving improvements. Right by Risha Beach is one example. Right by,
So you're thinking of the road, I gotta pick on you a little bit,
I
Selectman
wanna say
Marino.
it's like five.
That'd be the perfect time to give your water, all the way around the lake.
Dude, don't start me on the water conversation again.
So then you might as well double the price.
That was an amazing,
You might as well double the
when we
price.
dug it all up to put the sewers in and didn't put the water in back
So
then.
Jim,
but-
where does this leave us with, because we have a bond out now and a list of roads. Some of those roads, well, definitely haven't been done, but the estimate you had when we went out for bond, it's been so long. Newfield, again, not gonna pick on Newfield because I live there, but Newfield's horrible. I forget what your original estimate was of Newfield, but I'm betting you can't even, with inflation, you can't even come close to fixing that road for what it was
In the
estimated
bond
at.
for, right?
Right.
So, we had a lot of money in there for Newfield. I don't recall what the number was. I think it's over 2 million. There's varying ways of getting what you want. There's certain, do you do every inch of it, or do you do, you know, the problem is you take a good section and you leave it, all of a sudden it looks bad. You know, the section that you used to step on the gas, all of a sudden you're gonna be like, how come they stopped here?
And your problem on Newfield, again, is you talk drainage, you were talking 12-inch, this and that. I know for a fact, 3 pipes under Newfield that are 36 to 48 inch, they might as well be.
Well, those are the cross
culverts.
pipes.
Right.
The cross pipes are a little different story, and there is one culvert up there that it needs some rehabilitation, but that one can be lined. The head walls aren't bad, you know, so I wouldn't get too hung up on that one. The one down below, I'm not real familiar. Just down by you, that one.
That head walls.
That's a, yeah.
That head wall's in the river. pretty
Yeah.
much now, that's falling
So
over.
that one I honestly don't know a whole lot about. But there's a bridge down there too that also is narrow.
Right by Schuman Road.
Yep, so, you know, do you have a nice fast road and then a nice narrow bridge causing an incident? Or do we widen the bridge, you know? So there's always trade-offs, and.
But again, you're stuck, I guess the question was, you're stuck with Newfield right now because it's part of the bond package. That money has to be spent on Newfield, correct?
Yep. Well,
But
it has
now
to-
you can't do Newfield with that amount. You can, like you said, maybe do the real bad sections.
I wouldn't count Newfield out yet. I think we're gonna be okay on that one. That's not the kind of road that really, it's the drainage, the workup, you don't have a lot of utility, you don't have any utilities. You might have
zero utilities.
someone's electric buried across the road. Other than that, you got some driveway culverts and you got some crossover pipes. We'll have to put in some strategic under drains here and there. Not a big deal. That stuff's not terrible. You're in the you know, the area of, you know, $35 a square yard like we had on Wani Road. You know, that's a doable thing.
So let's go back to this list for a minute,
Yep.
Jim. You got 22 projects up there. 2 of them look like are state and federal projects, though? Does that 23 million include the 7.6 million you've got for those 2 bottom projects?
No, so that's 7 million for White Street Bridge. It's
Yeah.
not included in that
So
23 and a half.
so 23 million is our cost to do the other 20 roads, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's also because, I'm sure you've heard of the state local bridge and the federal local bridge programs.
Yeah.
Currently, the state, I believe, sits at about 55 to 45% in reimbursement. One of the wonderful things that you can see with White Street is that the federal government is doing 100% reimbursement, and you don't have to budget that. You don't have to include it as part of the allocated budget.
Yep.
So I think we have roughly 20 federal bridges, give or take a couple. So all of those, if the total of them, just based off that 7 million, is averaging a little over 100 million, that's covered by the federal government. and
Right,
it
I was just
doesn't
trying to
have
get to the 23 million that
Right.
was accounted in that. So, 2 questions, Jim. One is, the cost difference between when our team does it, your team does it, does the work, versus a contractor. Can you tell me the efficiencies, which is actually more expensive for us? Because you'd probably say, well, it's always the contractor, but that's not necessarily
No,
true.
you're right, it depends. Depends on the complexity of the job. More than that, it depends on the unknowns. If we have a project with a bazillion unknowns, I send my people to do it, because we can adapt to whatever we find and make the best decision for us, whereas the contractor just says, well, get an engineer in here and tell me what to do. The stuff that we have to subcontract, if you need bid documents, there's an enormous time and cost associated with that. Last year was our first year we used our bid, we did a drainage bid, we did a paving bid. It worked out pretty well. We had to make we had to adapt and overcome to a few things that were unforeseen. Some of those would have been caught had we brought an engineer in and designed the whole thing. But we got enough experience that we were pretty close on these. It cost us a little more than we were anticipating, but less than the engineering would have cost. So it's beginning to work and become more efficient and faster and, you know, so, so we're starting to learn how to, you know, we could never do that with Center Street. There's too many unknowns. That one's gotta be bid. It's a much more difficult job.
So say we decided this list was gonna be our big phase 1 plan, phase 2 plan, because we already did the bond, so this is our next big project, right? These 20 roads. Problem, of course, is we could go to bond for $23.5 million, and by the time everything's ready to go, it's nowhere near enough money, because that's what we went through in the last bond, right?
Yeah. So this gets you kind of to your point of the 10-year plan, or the 20-year plan, whatever it is. If people know that the road is on the plan somewhere, like, that's a step in the right direction. And, you know, Paul's been adamant about that, you know, the way we did that last bond really wasn't great because, again, no one anticipated a 50% inflation cost due to the whole COVID nightmare, all the money that got, you know, spent. So,
But say we took this list, rather than bond it now, let's do all the homework. Let's get the bids, decide how you want to approach these 20 roads, how many are going to go out to bid, how many we're going to do, and then, and you're going to have to ask the contractor, hey, give me a bid in 2 years or whatever. That, you know, I'm spitballing here with you, Jim, but rather than bonding it now and then we are 20% short of the money we need,
that's to Paul's point.
how about we get everything ready, get the bids, get everything done, and then put it to bond so that when you're ready to go, maybe you've got 10 contractors hitting it that 1 year and plus our guys, and maybe in 2 years we're getting this done, not the 6 years we've been working on the bond or however long it is, right? We gotta be strategic in how we plan for this.
That's a way of doing it. That's a lot of, so this is essentially the beginnings of that. These are real prices for real jobs that are virtually identical.
But if we go to bond now, we're gonna have the money, but we're not ready to do the work, and then it doesn't work.
Right, but you can't be totally ready to go to work yet and then get the bond either. It doesn't, it just never works like that either. So just to communicate the complexity of this is based on actual prices that we just spent in the last 2 years. If we put these jobs out to bid, you'll get prices that are 50% higher than the low bid. So even the contractors have this giant delta between what they think is the right price for the job. So how do we do it?
Right.
You know, so that's why I just went to dollars that we just spent for similar projects. And
But if we plan these 20, and it takes us 5 years or whatever between engineering and everything else that needs to go into it, well, that 23 million isn't 23 million anymore. We don't know how much to bond, how much to budget for. I guess it's, the way we did the last bond didn't work out so well, right? Because by the time we got to the project and this unforeseen inflation, great. And my idea of, let's put it all at the bid and then bond it when it's ready to go, that doesn't necessarily work, but something in the middle.
Something in between.
Right.
What that sweet spot is, I don't know. But there has to be a way of sneaking up on it.
So let me jump in really quickly now. So what we've done, because we've heard the cry, we truly understand. So what we've done now is we've gotten the information that we've needed. Now we can act. And some of the suggestions that I'll be bringing back to the board is you don't necessarily have to go out and bond right away. You can do things called ban, and you can ban money, X amount of dollars over years. And then when you have, typically in the past, and what we've done even here, we go out and borrow tranches of $8 to $12 million. So you can start projects with banning, which is a very minimum payment to get the projects going. And then when you've gotten 2-3 years of projects going, then you go out and bond that note. So you're not, but keeping in mind when that service hits, it hits. I just ran a quick amortization rate on $23 million. If we could pull it all off over 30 years, you'd be looking at a $1.2 million debt service payment, overall interest, and I picked a 3.5% interest rate, which is typical where municipalities are gonna roll in right now. You're still paying $14 million in interest over 30 years. But we got the information, now it's time to, how do we execute all of the information we have? Jim and I have even talked to, Dan's shaking his head because he's been in finance meetings about banning and bonding and everything like that. So first I had to get Jim get us all the information. And then it's the execution of how do we get these roads accomplished with, you know, money in hand, but also not going out and borrowing the money too soon. And banning it is one of the potential options that we have with it. So,
I mean, if we ever could develop a plan that actually gets these 20 done, and it gets it done in the next, I don't know, pick a dime, 5, 6, 7, however many years you think it would take, that's something that we'd all get excited about. The public will get excited about. Look, there's gonna be real progress made here. And
even
that's
the 1.2?
I'm sorry?
Even the 1.2 million?
Well,
Just had to put
we're
that
gonna
out
take
there.
it out of something
Sorry.
else, don't worry, Paul.
Just had to put that out
I
there.
just gotta throw this out there. If you look at Center Street, 769 feet is almost $834,000 for 769 feet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that's one thing, if you don't mind, I
That's
wanted
it.
to jump in on. As you mentioned with the amortization payments.
Big word, I know.
Yeah, my vocab is pretty elementary. But one thing that you run into when that happens, the reason we showed you guys the deterioration curve is that the alternative is you don't treat those roads. In the meantime, throughout that payment schedule, the cost of doing them later is exponentially higher than if you just make those
Put
payments.
escalators
I mean, it
on
would seem
stuff.
that and, you know, so budget season's so much fun, but it would seem that the annual operating budget should be, dare I say, adequate to pay for the maintenance of the roads we're trying to preserve. I mean, that should be in your annual budget, not capitals, obviously. These are all capitals.
I mean,
I mean, isn't it chip sealing considered maintenance that would be in your maintenance budget?
we don't put it in the maintenance budget, we put it in the capital, I think because it's,
Rolls over.
you know, and it has a lifespan to it. It's like, you know, there's kind of a 5-year lifespan and a dollar amount and a lifespan. And it leapfrog, it's more than 5,000, it's more than 5 years, so it goes into capital.
Got it.
Even though it maintains your assets, it really is an asset in and of itself too, so at least that's how we've.
Yeah, listen, I think you're absolutely right. We need to maintain which a 6 or a 7s that we have now, although I'm dying to see what a 6 after seeing that 4 looked like a 1 to me. But anyway,
Oh, the ones, see if we can, see if we can,
pull it back.
you
but
wanna- see
anyway,
if we can find one. And
we need to maintain our 6s and 7s so that we get an extra 10 years out of them. I know Selectman Lemire has been big about that in his conversations
It's huge.
because
It's
he
huge.
realized, he said to us many times,
Go to
that-
South Road, I'll bet you have one. You go towards the town line.
You had a 6.
No, they're
Also
gonna
be
find
another
us a
nice
6.
little,
yes.
presentation of how helpful Dialytics is. So South Road, which segment?
Towards the town line, right?
Yeah,
Jimmy?
I would
Towards
say,
the Torrington side?
yeah, the higher numbers, yeah. There you
Go
go.
to hit the 5s and the 4s.
Is that a 6?
I
That's a
think that's where I
5.
snapped my last strut was South Road, almost on the Torrington.
Yeah, right there.
How much damage,
Again.
Jim, are the plow trucks getting over and over this stuff? I'm afraid to ask.
You are afraid to ask.
Next storm, if I know they're coming, I'll just record the sound of the plows coming up Newfield.
Yeah.
And they're.
It's gunfire going off around us when the
It
plow
is.
goes by.
It is.
So,
So,
they
that's-
take a beating.
it is a big part of it. But another big part of it that people may not even think about is the amount of salt that it takes. If you can't scrape it off, you gotta burn it off. So we're putting down, and we've calibrated all of our trucks to the absolute minimum we can get away with. And it's, but you could go down a lot lower. The classic example was Wani Road this winter. Come down Newfield Road and ice and holes and blotches of black and white coming down. Take a right onto Wani Road. It looked like an airport runway, not a flake of snow, because you could scrape it off. Get up to the other end of it, you hit Blue Street, looked just like Newfield.
You know that retaining wall you built on
Yep. that
on
section.
Wakefield? The, 100 yards we get of,
Yeah, that's right,
right?
that's right.
That part is all perfectly clear like a runway,
Right.
and then you
Try
got,
being in the
That's-
truck.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the point. I mean, Lonnie does contract, and you subbed that.
Yep.
And they did a beautiful job on
They
that.
did a great job.
Mr. Dick Ayling.
is that a
by the
6
way,
you're showing us right now?
That's a,
Dick
This
Ayling
piece of the
appreciates
road is
that.
a 4, but it averages out, so it's about a 5 or a 6 for this entire stretch. It just
Really?
depends on where you go.
Again,
Now, let me ask
you
you,
have to
so,
remember
so you
this.
come up with this rating, AI come up with this rating.
Yeah,
If
it's,
you drove this again, now, and you drove this again in the spring, it'll readjust those ratings, right?
yeah. And the AI will improve over time. You have to remember, so there's different programs out there. The Cadillac is this program called Street Scan. This car looks like an alien. It's got metal detector, cameras. It will, as it's driving down the road, it will give you GPS coordinates of every gate valve, every manhole cover. It can analyze the signs and assess its retroreflectivity. It can tell you if it's compliant with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, right? Ungodly expensive. This is done with an iPhone it downloads these pictures, and we send it in, and they assess it, and they send it back. So we're not getting a premium product. You're gonna find there's some variations in here.
Yeah.
And, but it gives us an idea, and, it gives us all kinds of other, there's a great one. We can,
There's a few twos there. Are those all the phaser ratings there where it says 2, 3, 2?
Under this specific layer, that's just the number of addresses, I believe, for that specific bubble.
Oh, okay,
But
I
if
thought
I
that was
switch
the
back-
rating.
So-
Because I'm surprised if those are 5s, because that's the airport right there, Jimmy,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
The long fields, that's the old airport?
Again, take it, so it's funny, go to Platte Hill Road right there. That section's an 8. That's a 4. And I would say that section of South Road is better than this section here.
Absolutely, towards the
No,
town?
they're calling that a 4 too. So, you gotta take these numbers with a grain of salt. It's an average, you're gonna find spots that are, disturbingly bad, that are rated okay. It averages things out, it's not as good as the engineers doing it, but we've got
So-
enough historical
So
data.
the more you drive this, the better off you are, right, with this program?
Two things, the more you drive it, the better you are, and two, the AI is gonna be getting better. And they're already working on the next generation, and there's already a couple of things on here that we haven't even been trained on how to use yet, so
Right,
it's
right.
advancing. But we had to start somewhere,
So, because you did this, what, fall?
right, yeah.
I saw August up there on a couple.
I saw one that was September 30th, I
Yeah,
can
I
tell you
believe
the
that was-
date.
This
Yeah,
was the 17th.
that's why it'd be
Yeah.
interesting, because in the fall, that road was a little bad, then the frost hit, right?
Well,
Right now, believe it or not, some of those sections are actually a little better, because the frost is,
Has-
but when we get into a thaw, because we've had such cold weather,
Yep.
and that, I would be curious to drive that again with this.
Let's go back to the 20 list, right? That is a list that you've identified as really the best priority from a standpoint of use of funds, roads that need it the worst, traffic on the roads. I mean,
So
those are the 20 you've identified as, these would be the next ones you'd want to do?
The rubric I used for that was probably number one, what's the town's liability for potential failures? Center Street, there's a lot of traffic on that, a lot of people walking, sidewalks are bad. I also use the fact that it's right in between two roads that we just did. We got a beautiful Elm Street, we got a beautiful Case Avenue, it's right by Town Hall. That's why that one got on there. South Road, that's, the other end of that road is in the bond, so it seemed like we had to go to the next end, because we just, Pratt Street, that's just a short section of Pratt Street, but that's because there's a stone culvert under there that is failing, and that's a problem. And to make it even more complicated, part of that stone culvert goes under a house. So, these are the challenges. This is what happens in a town that was built so long ago.
Sure.
So how do you deal with these? Elm Street, we did, phase 1 and 2 are done, but we wanna get phase 3 up to the school, right? Because then the sidewalks are dialed in. Hinsdale Avenue, one of the reasons this got on is because we have our, priority sidewalk, list around the schools. And that Hinsdale Avenue, if you're gonna do the sidewalks, you kinda gotta do the road. I mean, you don't have to, but it would make sense to. Highview Drive, you know, that's reached the point in its life. You know, I remember that road being built when I was a little kid, and not much has been done to it.
I use, South Road?
Yep. Nanny Drive, there's a drainage pipe that has to be lined. That one, actually, we can line that, we don't have to dig it and pave it, so that's why it's in yellow, because there's, you know, things to deal with there. Huntington Road, I don't wanna do the road until I do the culvert, because all the drainage has to go down to that culvert. So I don't wanna create a bigger problem than I already have with that. So I've got an engineer right now looking to see, is that culvert undersized as it is, because it has surcharge, and depending on how big it is, it might be eligible for the state local bridge program. So trying to leverage my decisions based on the money that's available. So there's so many things that go into this.
Sure. So, and we've gone through a lot of time, and I just don't want to be the guy who's belaboring it, so I'll throw this question at Mr. Harrington. What is a reasonable period of time for you to come back to us with the plan on how we're gonna get these 20 done? Because I don't wanna have this fun discussion that we've had for the last 45 minutes.
We could be here till 3 o'clock in the morning.
And then it goes away, and then we don't talk about it again. Let's come back with a plan, and it doesn't, listen, I'm not asking for it tomorrow, so.
2 weeks,
Yeah.
2 weeks, good
Day
enough?
after.
Yeah, can you have it for the next meeting? No, I'm only kidding.
I could. I could have it prepared within, you know, an hour. The question's gonna become, is the budgetary impact that it's gonna
Well, think of
have.
it, the question is, how do we go after this?
So I can answer the first part of that. I just wrote this down. We've got to define the goal. What are we trying to get at?
Right.
With our road? Do we want everything to be a 10? Do we want everything to be above a 5? Do we want to start somewhere and, you know, do we want
I
to
think
keep?
we need to drive the roads a few more times and let this thing calibrate a little more, because I agree with Paul, if that was a 4 that we saw, I'd like to,
We want it, Jim, we want nice roads, right? We want, they don't
Yeah,
have
we
to be
don't need-
10s, but we want roads that people,
I think a 6 is a reasonable, try to get everything, try to get it so there's nothing below a 6.
and when you say that, you're making something a 10 by the time you get, you know, 10 years down the road, you're working on something that, now you're making that a 10 and this has already become a 6. I get that. It's a
That's-
constant, right.
Yep, you got
But
it.
if we had everything a 6, and I'm hoping the 6 is pretty good,
Yep.
if we had everything a 6, you know, roads are two things. Roads are safety, roads are, they annoy the living daylights out of people, and also it's a certain amount of pride. When you pull into a town and the roads are nice,
Yep.
it
It
gives
makes a
the
statement.
entire town
No doubt.
a much better look for developers and certainly for the people who live here. So,
No doubt.
you know, we've got to prioritize it in some way, and I know that the budgetary problems that we're gonna, but let's develop a plan. And maybe it's a tier, maybe it's a bond or 3 bonds that happens over 10 years. I don't know the answer to it, Paul. You're the expert in that area.
so real quick, Paul, funding wise, just the town, are other states different? The way they pass out funding, or do they qualify for more federal aid? Because I've been in towns of Vermont, way smaller than Winchester, New Hampshire, been in a few towns up there, where, again, population very low, grand list's gotta be small, because there's nothing in, and the roads are pristine.
A lot of them are county roads out there.
Okay, so, all right, that was just my question, because it's, you know, I'm 3 years in now, I'm thinking, where's the money coming from? And I'm some of these towns with a population of 480 people, they have 70 miles of roads.
But
And they're-
they also probably didn't have 3 decades of no preventive maintenance.
Right.
You know,
that,
you know, zero budget over time
Yep.
adds up. and
I just don't want all
you
this
gotta
to.
pay for it eventually.
Right,
So let us, I hear you all loud and clear. Let
I
us
don't want
all
this
sit
discussion
back
to
down.
be tabled and then we don't
No.
talk about it again. That's why.
Let us come
let's
back
come
with
back
a, with a
with a
plan.
certain date.
You know, honestly, it makes the most sense to, you know, talk about a plan during the budget time, because that's when you're going to have to act with dollar amounts, because works get done. So when we present the budget, and we started even talking about the second bond, you know, in terms of what do? We've already started those discussions, so when we come back, we'll present a package with the budget of what a potential, you know, look ahead looks like, and, you know,
Let's put together a plan on how we get those 20 done.
you guys wanna,
That's good too, and then, do we have a schedule, Jim, for the bond money we already have? Because that's one thing I heard from the residents, too, we poured all this money, we're gonna do these roads. Are we attacking any of those this year?
Or maybe the better question would be, when is the bond project, the current bond projects, when do we expect completion on all of it?
We won't make them all in 5 years, which was the goal. I'm thinking it's gonna probably be 6. And I'm thinking we're probably gonna run out of money before we get something done. So that will have to be the first one in the next bond. My hunch is it's probably gonna be the Lake Street repair. It's expensive. We plan on using lot SIP money. There's been a delay in the lot SIP money that is pushing it out. We're using our round of lot SIP money on the Holliburg job. Torrington ended up getting 2 years in a row of it because of a big project, which kind of bumped some, and we're having that conversation with the COG. But if I had to guess, that's the one job that will fall off the bond and have to be the first one in the next. That's my hunch. On the positive side, one of the bridges, I can't remember if it was the Grantville Bridge or the White Street Bridge, is on the bond.
White Street,
White Street.
7 million.
So that one, because it's 100% funded, the money that we allocate, we thought it was gonna be only 80% funded. So the 20% that we had can be reallocated to other projects, which is helping us, you know, keep up with the inflated prices. So we're working on them, and, you know, we're knocking them off. It's just, we're not gonna get them all done in 5 years. And I think the only one that I see that is gonna be completely off the table for this 5-year period is gonna be probably the Lake Street. Everything else, at the moment, I think is probably still pretty safe. And, you know, we got a couple of them that were done ahead of time, a couple of them that have fallen behind their schedule. Holliburg Avenue is scheduled, like, we're in with the engineers right now getting that one. That one's going out to bid. I don't think Bridge Street wasn't on the bond. So that one's going out too. You know, so you gotta remember, we're doing things other than what's on the bond too, so
Sure.
that interrupts things. But, so, we're a little behind schedule, and a little over budget, but not terrible considering the inflation that hit this. And,
Yeah.
you know, there's contractor bandwidth and engineer bandwidth on top of it. You know, some of the bond stuff, you know, the Highland Lake drainage stuff, I've got some engineers that are just waiting for surveys. Can't get surveyors on it. And then they were gonna do it this winter, now they're snowed out, they can't find what they're surveying. So there's always something, but I know everybody wants it done. You know, for me, we get it done, we just go into another one, so, you know, let's go. But we've made a lot of progress, and we're not terribly far behind or terribly over budget considering. So, don't give up hope.
There's
I don't want
always
to.
hope, Paul.
Yes.
We'll
So-
get there.
So Paul, are you gonna come back, because again, I just don't want this thing to fall between the cracks here. Is there, should we put a date on this by the time we'll come back with a preliminary plan for these 20?
I'll put it in the budget documents, because again, it's gonna have a financial impact, and that's the time to say, I like this plan or I don't like this plan, because whether we go out and bond or ban, there is gonna be a financial impact in the 27 budget, and I think it only makes sense presenting it with the budget, so you see it both ways, with it injected into the budget, without being injected into the budget. That makes the most sense, because I could come in here and say, hey, we can get these 3 roads done we'll ban it. We only have to pay, you know, the interest on it, and go from there. But I think you need to see that you ban something and then eventually you get to that $10 million mark, you bond it, what that debt service payment does. So I think it's bigger but smaller in that, you know, one of my jobs is the financial responsibility of the town, and I never want to get us into a situation where we can't make a debt service payment or, you know, something has to go. So I think you have to look at it as a total, and I think it makes the most sense during the budget process to present how do you get these first 20 roads going and when exactly the financial commitment's going to hit.
And another thing that I think is helpful to seed to plant is when, you know, people say don't bond for 20 years for a road because it's worn out in 20 years. That's only half true. The pavement surface may be worn out, but the expensive part is, as you can see, is all the drainage and all the other stuff. And if you do it right, and you get good drainage, and you get your base proper, you get it crowned, and you maintain it, it will last more than 20 years. But when it's time to resurface it, you can either just overlay it, or you can mill and pave it. And those are relatively short, you know, relatively small dollars.
$35 a square
You know,
foot.
So,
Per yard.
so
Does overlay ever happen anymore?
we did a little bit on Suckerbrook Road, right where it joins Platte Hill Road. We had a stretch in there. It just wasn't, it was the right treatment to do. We milled off 3 inches. We just put down one leveling layer, just enough to absorb the, so one of the problems with just overlaying is any crack that you have in the pavement underneath is gonna refer through. So we milled 3 inches, and we just put a shim in there to add a crown and give that a buffer for those cracks to slow the referral down, and then we put 2 inches over that, or 1.5 inches over that. Very cost effective, and made a big difference in an area that was just awful. You know, short little section, when it was just, we couldn't pothole patch it enough to stay ahead of it. Very easy, and that was part of our paving bid. Just, you know, we got a unit price, bang, knocked it out. So, yeah, there's, you know, we're a little behind schedule this year because our clerk of the works got poached from us, and I got interviews on Friday with you know, the next, you know, batch of applicants, but we didn't need that. Winter is the time to get him set up and get all these roads into the list.
So that is a total of 16 miles, everything we're talking about there? Is that
Just about
about
20%.
17 miles?
Yeah, 20%.
Okay. Hey, it gives us hope.
And that's, right, it's something.
So in the spirit of not losing hope, or maybe killing all hope, but depending on your answer, the amount of investment that we've made through the bond and just regular maintenance, you know, the regular budget and such, would you say that overall over, like, say, the last 5 years, are we staying ahead? I mean, I know deterioration is always happening. Are we improving overall?
Oh, absolutely, no
Okay.
doubt about it.
So we are making progress.
Yes, no doubt about it, yep.
So there's hope.
There is hope.
There's hope.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, there's no doubt about it, you know. No one ever really notices the roads that are good because you're just driving. You know, that's because it's what you expect. You notice the roads that are bad, and those still just show up, and when they do, it annoys everybody. But they're still driving 40, 45, 50 miles an hour on Newfield Road, so how bad can it be? How bad can it be?
That's a whole other problem.
Jim, they're trying to get flight so that they don't hit the bumps. You go fast enough, you guys.
See a speed camera here.
There you go.
You know, a couple neighbors have actually brought that up to me, they're like, I know Newfield bad, but if they repave it, I mean, the cars drive so fast now, if they repave it,
Yeah.
what do you think they get? I said, oh,
If you catch
90 to 120 on a Friday night.
All right, we're kind of off the rails here on our presentation. Do you guys have anything else with
It's
it?
not an exaggeration to say that as soon as we finish the road, the very first phone calls are, you know, put up speed limit signs. Get the cops out here. It's at every single road you do.
Yeah.
So it's, but yeah. So that was our 20 minutes.
9 a.m. tomorrow, Jim, in the office, no. If the board didn't have anything else, special shout out to Dan, who is our intern. Fabulous job, Dan,
Dan,
putting this
Jim,
all
thank you
together.
very much.
Um, You know, Dan's obviously still in college, getting his way. He does want a job in the public arena one day, but hell of a job, Dan. Thank you
Still?
for coming.
Exactly.
He did get to miss class tonight. Typically, Dan works Tuesdays, Thursday. He has class Monday night, but we meet on, Tuesday, Thursday, Dan works, but he wanted to join us tonight. He's been very close with this project, so great job, Dan.
Thank
Jim,
you.
You always do a good job, you know that.
Gentlemen. Moving on to item B, Pearson Roof Referral to Planning and Zoning per Connecticut General Statute 8-24, 8-22.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I hope you had time to look over the bond package from Pullman and Comley. There are certain boxes that we need to check in order to move this thing. The first one being that we need a referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission under Connecticut General Statute 8-24 and 8-22. They will look over the project and provide comments. It is required by Connecticut General Statute. I'll answer any questions, or there is a motion to refer this to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I move that we refer the Pearson School roof project to the Winchester Planning and Zoning Commission for review and comment pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Sections 8-24 and 8-22, and to request that the commission report back to the Board of Selectmen within the statutory review period.
I'll second.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Bill. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Unanimous?
I will get a letter over to them first thing tomorrow morning with that. The next one is, we have a few things to do. We need to, do you want to read the agenda item? I'm sorry.
Oh, item C, you did altogether. Item C, roof bond resolution, set meeting date for a referendum date.
So we need to do two things tonight. We need to set the town meeting date, which we have scheduled for March 17th. That will be at 7 p.m. at the Winchester Town Hall, and then the referendum would be set for March 24th. I did have our registrar ask me a question tonight, and I found the answer, and I emailed her. Why are we doing the town meeting so close or not enough time? I knew the answer, but I went back into our ordinance. So section 313, special town meeting, the Board of Selectmen may call a special town meeting for the purpose of a referendum or initiate or any purpose not inconsistent with the provisions of this charter. At any town meeting, the mayor shall preside unless a moderator is designated by the majority vote of the board. At any special town meeting where a resolution is introduced to authorize the issuance of any bonds or notes, the meeting shall be adjourned after an opportunity for discussion for such resolution to a referendum to be held on a date within 1 week thereafter. So what this in essence is saying is that you can't have a meeting way in advance of a referendum, the day before a referendum. You have to have a town meeting. That town meeting actually doesn't get adjourned. It gets recessed to the referendum 1 week later. So if you're wondering about time frame, absentee ballots become available the day after the town meeting. So they would be available on March 18th. I lost my train of thought for a second. March 18th. Because that gives 1 week, the only absentee ballots that do get mailed out are the ones that are on the always absentee ballot, that list. Anyone can request an absentee ballot. They can come in. But mailing, because of mail taking time, they will not be mailed out. They would need to come in to either the registrar or the clerk's office to get an absentee ballot. But the ones that are on the list that always get absentee ballots, those go out immediately the next day. Before you are it's one motion rolled up into one. It would be to set the town meeting on March 17th at 7 p.m. And the also would be March 24th would be the referendum between 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. here. That is provided on a note card if there isn't any other questions on this.
Do we have a motion?
So the motion for the Isabella M. Pearson School roof project, resolved that the Board of Selectmen, this is all of it, right?
This is, you have to read it, yeah.
Resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the town of Winchester hereby approves the setting of a special town meeting to be held on Tuesday, March 17th, 2026, 7 p.m. at the Winchester Town Hall, 338 Main Street, Winsted, Connecticut, for the purpose of considering and discussing a proposed appropriation and authorization for the issuance of bonds or notes for the Isabella M. Pearson School roof project as presented to this meeting. Further resolved that the said proposed appropriation shall be in the amount of $2,898,670 and shall be for the purpose of funding the design, construction, replacement, and related costs associated with the Isabella M. Pearson School roof project. It is further resolved that the special town meeting shall be adjourned at its conclusion to submit such appropriation and borrowing authorization to a referendum vote to be held on Tuesday, March 24th, 2026, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. at the Winchester Town Hall, 338 Main Street, Winsted, Connecticut, in accordance with the town charter and applicable provisions of the Connecticut General Statutes. It's further resolved that the notice of such special town meeting and referendum, substantially in the form presented to this meeting, is hereby approved, and that the town clerk is authorized and directed to cause such notice to be posted, published, and distributed in the manner and within the time required by law. And it's further resolved that a copy of said notice shall be attached to and made a part of the minutes of this meeting.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Bill. Any discussion?
Just one more, Mr. Mayor. The question that will be on the ballot will be a resolution appropriating $2,898,670 for costs related to the replacement of the roof and portions of the building envelope at the Elizabeth M. Pearson Middle School, and authorize the issue of bonds and notes in the same amount to finance the portion of the appropriation not defrayed from grants, will be the question. Yes or no will be the only responses given. So I wanted that part of the minutes as well.
Did you say Elizabeth?
And it is the Isabella.
Isabella, I am sorry, it said, yeah, I'm sorry.
I only read it for you 3 times.
I typed it. So I think I would know, right?
Yeah, right?
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous?
Everyone had an opportunity to sign this?
We did.
Wait for Troy.
Oh, okay. Well, and Troy wasn't here, and it's fine as is, so I appreciate all of you. So we have a meeting on the 16th, and then also on the 17th, I believe, of March. Unfortunately, I tried to schedule
Is
it.
that going to interfere with Board of Education on the 17th? Don't they usually
It's a
meet the
different
third
night.
Tuesday?
It's a different night, yeah. it's-
No? Okay.
But I tried to get it on Monday, and unfortunately, then we'd have to move the actual referendum date, so we're back to back.
All right, moving on to item D, request for additional state aid.
I apologize, Mr. Mayor, I just
Lost this paperwork.
lost, I got too much stuff in front of me. No,
You have special notes on yours? Or?
I always do
Page
special.
56 of the packet.
He's got a super secret
I got a
copy.
super secret packet that helps. Well, that's it, but I'm missing my letter. If I could have the letter. So I was working with, I don't know what it is, I'm good. I was working with Selectman Bishop. He was really asking a lot about the state aid and money that the state provides us. So we took some time, and thank you to our assistant town clerk and also to our finance director, who went back many, many years to provide the data, which you see in that Excel sheet. And you can see that over, this is why I wanted my sheet, that the state aid has not gone up at all. What we did is we drafted a letter on behalf of the mayor, and we're requesting that you authorize the mayor to sign this letter to give to our governor to increase our state aid. While we were drafting this letter, we were ranked number 11. We have now, in distressed municipality, in 2004. In 2005, we've increased to number 4 as a distressed municipality. You go on the TV, you may read online, you may pick up a newspaper, you find that all the big cities are always given additional appropriation. Well, if we're the number 4 distressed community, I want our piece.
So I move that the Board of Selectmen authorize and approve a letter requesting additional state aid to be signed by the mayor and transmitted to Governor Ledemont on behalf of the town.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to say a few things about this. So yeah, as you can see on this chart here, the educational cost sharing, it has not gone up since 2009, and that is absolutely ridiculous. I have looked at this and mulled over this in every sort of way, looking at things such as enrollment. The enrollment is way up. It's not like it's not been, that our, school enrollment is falling. The number of staff members have gone up. In every way, conceivable way, there should be raises in the state contribution to the educational cost sharing, and it is severely impacting our town. And I want to be able to fund, what our children need, and I don't want to have to put that all on the taxpayers of our town. And I just find it ridiculous that since 2009, the state government has not been able to help us out. So I have, I've had a conversation a couple times with Congressman John Larson about this. I've been making a lot of noise, trying to, get a meeting with the governor, lieutenant governor, anybody, because this is a huge problem, and it's having a direct impact on our children, our taxpayers, our town, and we need to change this.
I would ask you, I remember that when that Gilbert, what they call the agreement about, longevity of the relationship, there was conversations with apparently our Representative Case who said that would result in us getting more funds. Has there been any action on that at all?
No action that I've seen from my office. I think it was a few weeks ago, I had shared with you the new numbers. I shared with that pie graph.
As I recall, the comment he made is when we get a contract with Gilbert, the Secretary of Education, I believe, I'm just going off memory, has said to him, you can't come looking for more money until you get a contract with Gilbert.
There's no contract required.
That's their comment back. They
thought it was
wanted us
agreement
to have a
with a
contract with
commitment.
Gilbert for a long time, as you know. So that's, I think, them pushing back on the fact that we haven't gotten that contract done.
Did that study, it was saying that the issues could potentially be resolved by a contract. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to be resolved by a contract, and hopefully they can be. But that doesn't control those funding. And so, in the conversations that I've been a part of, that's never been one of the issues. So I don't know where that came from, but the reason why that agreement for the longevity of the relationship was proposed and pushed through was under the theory that was going to get us some more money.
If I recall correctly, we named them as the high school for the town, is what the latest vote was. And that gets us capital reimbursement, is what it gets us. But more funding for our town, again, I'm only going off what Representative Case said here at the meeting, which was, get a contract with Gilbert is what he's told, and then he can come ask for funding.
Actually, you don't have to have the agreement in order to get the capital. They can bond and they can get the capital reimbursement without. I did extensive research on this during my time at the board, having conversations with the decision makers. So my understanding was it was going to help us get more funds in, not capital reimbursement. That's always been available to them, as long as they're maintaining.
I think they had to be the named high school, though, from what I was
They've
told.
always been the designated high school.
But-
You don't have to have an agreement to, they just have to, under the statute, you have to have the relationship for 10 years after the completion of the project in order for not to do a clawback.
Right.
So there's no requirement for there be any written agreement to that contract. But that's not, I'm not trying to push that issue right now. But, so has anyone had any conversations with Mr. Case? I know I'm going to be reaching out to him this week about this directly, but has anyone had any conversation with Mr. Case as to whether he's gone back to the school, to the education department, say, okay, can we get more funds? Is he doing anything to help us with this issue? Does anyone know? No? Okay. And I'll reach out to him this week to see what he can offer. Because it's important to get our representatives involved in this too. The letter from our mayor is great, but they don't always have the same contacts that someone from the legislature does.
That is correct. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion?
I'll just add one last thing. This was the letter from this board. I do plan on following up with a letter from the town manager's office as well. I do really want to stress the fact that we were number 11 distressed community, now we're number 4. So I plan on also engaging with the governor's office and anyone else who will listen. You heard me last year when I stood up and presented the budget. The people down in Hartford believe flat funding us is something to be noble about, and we're all happy that they held the towns harmless. You hear them all get up, and they held the town harmless. All the towns, all 169 towns. When you had record-setting inflation and then coming back and telling 169 towns, we've left you harmless. Meanwhile, you have billions in dollars in surplus funds, and towns are suffering. I get a little aggravated. Not as aggravated as 2 weeks ago, but there are a lot of different talking points, and I want to hit the fact that you didn't leave us harmless because you keep continuing to push state mandates on us. You saw just alone what happened to our grand list. That alone. And to sit here and then tell us that you've held us harmless, you have not. You continue to pass laws that continue to shrink our grand list. Yes, we do have to grow our grand list ourselves, but I think there are other things that they could be doing to helping out, not just Winchester, but I play for the name on the front of the jersey, but all 169 towns.
I saw that Governor Lamont made an announcement that the state was going to cover some of the withheld federal funds. Have we heard anything about whether we're losing any federal funds and whether the state's going to make up for that?
There was a little conversation, and the superintendent and I have met. We believe we are held whole. There was about $158,000 that we were a little scared about, but currently right now we're in a good spot with getting everything we should be getting.
Excellent.
Correct. That is something that keeps me up at night and probably keeps the superintendent up as well.
All right, all in favor?
Thank you. I'll get this off
Unanimous?
tomorrow morning.
Item 11, executive session, discussions regarding 48 Bridge Street and the health insurance contract. Taking with us David Satarana, Realtor, and Town Manager Harrington.
I'll note before any motion's made that our Realtor, David, will only be with us for Section A, not Section B.
Noted.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? It is 9:07.
We shouldn't be long. If you're hanging out in the public house, we should not be long. But I never. Go on.
You give me 3 hours.
That's
Aye.
That was a deep sigh, if I ever heard one.
Not kidding.
Yeah.
Can't keep track of them.
Put a kitten collar with a bell on them. What you got, 9:29? 9:29?
That's what I wrote.
We're back from executive session at 9:29 PM. Item 12, new business, discussion, possible action regarding 48 Bridge Street.
So I move that we accept the offer for 48 Bridge Street from the last name Nash for $27,000, and we'll send this property sale to town meeting to be held here at Town Hall on March 17th, 2026 at 7 PM.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? Item 13, citizens' comments. The Board of Selectmen welcomes public comments. Speakers limited to 3 minutes and may speak once. Does anyone wish to speak? Just hit the mic before you.
Yeah, hit it again until
Gotta
it's
turn
green.
So, Paul,
Nope, just hit it one more time.
that's a one more time.
There you
There you
go,
go.
you're good.
So thank you for the 48 Bridge Street, that's my guy. But anyways, I want to know if there's any updates on Wallens Hill project, housing project with 118 acres.
Mr. Mayor, may I answer?
You may answer.
At 4 o'clock today, all of the three qualified developers submitted their proposals.
Yeah.
That was at 4 o'clock. I have not opened them yet.
Okay.
So three of them are in big boxes, are all sitting in my office.
Okay.
So
Can I ask you one part B to the question? Sure. Do we have a specific criteria that we're looking for our builder? As to what we want built up there as a town?
That's an interesting, great question. So when we sent out our RFQ, we wanted to make sure that, well, an RFQ and an RFP. We did first they had to, show their qualifications, and then we allowed them
Sure.
to propose their deal. The Board of Selectmen came up with several options that they were looking for. The word multi-generational housing seemed to ring a good bell with the Board of Selectmen. So we've put that in. We've put a mixture of different concepts out there. But until we open the boxes, I don't know what these developers do. But ultimately, where I think we're going to guide this is that we're going to bring each developer in to meet with the Board of Selectmen in executive session. There'll be some back and forth, and then ultimately come out of executive session at a later meeting, and then have each developer do a very short 20 to 30 minute presentation on each one of their
That's gonna
proposals.
be
That will be live
Oh, it'll
in
be
front of
live.
people.
Oh, okay.
And then what we want to do, what I want to do for the board is gather public input. And I know it's hard for a lot of people to make meetings, so I want to obviously make it available on YouTube as well, and then leave the survey open that they can get online. So this way, the Board of Selectmen can gather a lot of information from the community, and then ultimately select the one they're going to move forward to the town meeting for ultimate sale of this land. Is the process I see in my head, but again, we just got the proposals
Okay.
today.
All right.
So
Well,
that's where I
thank
see
you
it
for the
going.
update. I appreciate it.
Yep. Anyone else wish to speak? Item 14, Selectmen's comments and reports. Anyone? Just we're not out of the cold yet, so make sure you're checking on your friends and neighbors, parents, elderly, as 20 below this week still,
Shovel your sidewalks.
and shovel your sidewalks
And fire hydrants.
and
And
fire
the
hydrants.
groundhog didn't see a shadow.
We do have a warrant for the groundhog's arrest. If not, we'll be swearing one out soon.
On it.
Item 14,
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
See you in 2 weeks.